We will be using the main 2021 as our guide for the process of tonight's meeting. Is there any objection? Hearing none, and so ordered. Just go over a couple housekeeping items. We'll get a brief presentation from the superintendent. We will go through the articles. Once I've read the article, I will seek a motion and a second. Then I'll ask for discussion. If there's no discussion or we're done with discussion, we'll then vote on that article. When we get to Article 12, I will need a count on Article 12. Article 13, by state law, is required to be a written ballot. Any questions about the process before we begin with our presentation from the superintendent? All right, let's go ahead.
Sorry for those who are watching that you didn't have sound. We think we're good right now. Okay, so we're just going to go over a couple of things from last time that I'm waiting for the next slide. Okay, so this is '22. And then with our maintenance, looking at those purchased services, which is our inspections, security, testing, those were increased with our insurance and pest control of $167,174. And then we had an increase in transportation for special education of $163,658. So those were the major. Okay, we're going to hold for a minute. Yeah, we're going to hold because we don't have sound right now. We're hearing.
We're good.
We have it now? Okay.
Takes 30 seconds.
Yeah, just signal. If you're getting texts from people, just go, stop talking. Okay, we'll get it. So that was really the overall drivers in our budget. A lot of our budget is obviously driven by our staffing to educate our students. Okay. So then we go to the next slide. Which is our revenue slide. And so we account for other revenue sources that you can see there, which is we account for receiving funds for students that are identified as state agency client. We have funds that come in for child development service, our laptop damage reimbursement, main care reimbursement, and then fund balance, which you've heard about, are those funds that at the end of the year, they go to an undesignated account. We have funds left over, and then we are using those funds to offset taxes this year. And so we have raised that, the board has raised that from $400,000 to $600,000. And then we will be watching to make sure we have that fund balance for next year. And then the law has shifted to what we can have on call for fund balance. They raised it during COVID. They allowed districts to have more fund balance on hand. And is it 5 or 3? I always sort of go 1, 5. Thank you. I always say 3. So after this year, where we cannot be above 5%, so we'll be watching that. And then we have our state allocation of $11,383,013. And then the required local allocation. So when we get our state funding, which is called the ED 279, which is the state funding that's used for all the districts across Maine, they say through that calculation, what's the total amount? And then they take off what the required local would be. For RSU 4 is $6,281,940. And when we pay that required, then there's $11,383,013 that are state paying. Then there's additional local allocation, which is $4,131,065. And that is when you have the ED 279 is a formula that keeps it equity across the state. We're all funded on the same ratios, the same allocation per pupil around economically disadvantaged, or our multilingual students, or co-curricular, or technology. And then we also receive special education funds through that, transportation. So all that, then we have to decide locally, what do we need beyond that when we talk about how many buildings we have, how much staffing we have, do we have a nurse in every building? Do we have social workers? What are our librarians? How many students in each classroom? And then we decide locally how much additional we will need to fund the education. And so that's $4,131,065. So our budget is has been approved by the board at $22,665,019, which is a 5.4% increase. See Nicole going for her mic.
All right, I recognize the board chair for the purpose of making a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would like to make a motion to seek permission for, and thank you, to allow non-resident administrators to speak. Katie Grondin, Samantha Garnett Sias, Norma Jean Audette, Marco Aliberti, Jenny Hudner, Jane LaValle, Michaela Stevens, Shelley Mogul, Justin Kelleher, Mark Taylor, and Jim Palmer.
There's a motion. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your paddles. Those opposed? That motion carries. All right, I'm going to just remind folks that there was a handout at your table when you checked in, so you could follow through, which might help answer some questions that would be coming as to what each cost center is. So if you could just follow along on your handouts, that would be great. I believe they're going to be up on here on the screen as well. Just a reminder, this is an observation as your moderator tonight. This is our third attempt to pass a budget. Let me just remind you of the process. The board makes a recommendation. It then comes before an annual budget meeting such as this. Then it goes to the voters for ratification. So I guess what I'm going to ask you folks tonight is, the board has put together a proposal. This is the third one. I'm going to ask you to try to come up with a number that you believe is going to receive a positive vote, because we do need a school budget, folks. So whatever that number is coming out tonight as the final number will be the number that is being voted on and ratified by the voters. So this board, this meeting tonight, has the power to set that number. Are there any questions before we begin? All right, seeing none. Article 1. To see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for regular instruction. The school board recommends $7,547,261. Motion, please. It has been moved. Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Yes, please go to the microphone. Identify your name and your town.
Tracy Rancourt from Sabatis. On this Article 1, where it talks about where it says reduce Carrie Ricker specialist positions, what does that exactly mean?
Okay, yes, that's art, music, PE. So,
Wasn't it going to be reduced in the last attempt at this? Is this for a second, it's going to be reduced again?
no. So you see at the top, the dark black,
Yeah,
and it's hard to read, I know. That has already been reduced. And then this time around, what was reduced is salary lines when we looked at hiring, because we had hiring new teachers for those who left and what was the difference. So we were able to make some reduction there. That's the latest reduction. And then there was also increasing the sub rates. So there was taking some of the funding that was saved for reducing salary lines due to teacher replacements in order to raise the sub rates so that we have more substitutes and to bring back the field trips.
okay, so this just means where it says reduce Carrie Ricker specialist positions, they still have specialists, it's just
Correct.
been reduced.
Yes,
To
exactly.
one position, I believe.
Right, so the four positions now cover 3 schools as opposed to Carrie Ricker having their own.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
Are there any other questions or discussion?
So, my original intent was to come in here, make everybody's life miserable, kind of hold everybody here till midnight and just go round and round on this budget. Not gonna do that. I've got kids at the field practicing football right now and I need to be there to coach them. I don't have time to play this game for a third time. Looking over this budget, warrant Article 1, 0.63% increase. We flip a page, we go to system administration. Oh wait, that's actually a reduction. Thank you, appreciate that. Let's go with the other big one that really boils me. Transportation and buses. 23.39% increase from last year. That's Article 8. I know of at least one position in here that is total BS that really could be better suited for the arts, for our cut position. Phys ed, music, art, everything that goes to our kids. Okay? I'm not going to sit here and argue and get half-truths on answers to try to justify a $60,000 pickup, a $40,000 tractor. Until you guys get serious, this thing is going to get rejected and rejected and rejected again. I will be the most vocal, the giant, most pain in the ass person I can be until we get serious. Feel free to call me out of order because at this point I am out of order. I'm done. I've got kids to go deal with. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you. I'm going to just remind people to try to keep the comments to the article at hand. Still on Article 1. Any further questions or discussion on regular instruction?
I'm Kayla Griffin. I'm in Sabatis. I just moved in to the district on Sunday. So I'm walking into this a bit miffed, honestly. This is not a budget. My household budget is more detailed than this. So, like, my 5th grader doesn't have books yet. No textbooks. He comes home with vocabulary words. They said, great, what chapter are you reading? What's it about? Well, no textbooks. So for the regular instruction, supplies and equipment, like when are they getting textbooks? Do they have textbooks? Are they gonna read something some point.
Excuse me,
I'm confused.
can I stop you just for a second? Can you pause for just a second? Um, Can you repeat your name for us?
Kayla Griffin.
Kayla Griffin. It was brought to my attention, so are you a registered voter in this district?
Been on Sunday.
Okay.
So-
Is there somebody willing to make a motion to allow Kayla Griffin to speak?
I'll make a motion for
All right, there's a motion and a second. Bear with me for just a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of allowing the non-resident to speak? Those opposed? That motion carried. You may continue.
Yeah, so I've been following some of the comments going on. Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. I've been following the comments that parents are talking about online. I've been watching the past meetings and listening to what's been going on. And this needs more clarification, and we need to see some action happening before we can say, like, you're going to get $22 million for what? You don't even have textbooks, right? They don't have a bus to the cross-country meet tomorrow. I think they are going to get there, but they had to, like, pull strings to make it happen. It's a lot of money, and we're not seeing the results of that spending on the ground. So that's probably what I have to say for all of the sections. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion?
My name is Gary Parker, and I would like to comment on her discussion. I'm curious whether or not we superseded textbooks with laptops. Is there anyone on the school board that can comment on that? I'm not interested on what the superintendent of schools has to say. I'm interested in what the school board has to say. Thank you.
Could somebody from the board respond? Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Nicole Russell, your board chair. So our policies are written, and our superintendent is who puts them into operation. So I know you may not want to hear from her, but in order to get a proper answer regarding if we still have textbooks or laptops, or if one replaces the other, or if one's still available to complement the other, we don't know what's in each of the classrooms. So we would have to ask Katie, or we would have to ask our administrators who are here tonight and who have been allowed to speak.
Do you want to follow up?
So my concern is that the school board doesn't know.
Is there anybody else from the board that might want to respond to the question regarding textbooks?
So I think we can go in order. We'll start with Christy.
So I was an outgoing member of CAI, which is Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee. And last year, as part of the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee, we had textbooks that came in for us to review because some of our textbooks needed to be purchased because they hadn't purchased a new textbook for U.S. history, for example, since 2000. So my understanding is that which we did purchase new ones in this past budget cycle. So my understanding with textbooks is that the majority of the textbooks are staying at school, and the supplementary activity or learning that's happening is uploaded in a different platform depending on the school and grade level. So I have a middle schooler and I have a fourth grader, so I can talk about my lived experiences with them. So my middle schooler, he doesn't bring textbooks home, but the work that he does is uploaded in something called Google Classroom, which is kind of an education management system for him. Sure. Google Classroom. But the class, so that is,
Look, hold on, Mr. Parker, hold on. We'll try to get you an answer and
so there are textbooks at the school. They're not bringing them home. So he is accessing textbooks in his classroom and doing supplemental learning at home, homework, if you will, kind of pulling from those textbooks and resources. I'm going to pass it to Doug.
Gary, do you know the state of every condition of every bridge in the town of Litchfield right now, being on the select board?
we're not gonna do a back and forth, okay?
It's an equal question.
Rob, go ahead.
Make sure mic's on though. Let's,
Hold on just a second. I stopped that.
The textbooks and the laptops or the iPads are all tools our students use in the classroom and at home. Textbooks are expensive and they have a shelf life. iPads and laptops can be uploaded with information and they go home with the students. We've made a very significant investment so our students can learn and be in the know on how to use the computers on everyday use. No student today should be able to just have a textbook and use that back and forth. We've made the investment in our laptops and our iPads to be state of the art. A lot of schools do not still have one-to-one like we do. And so consequently, it's a tool, whether it's a laptop, a textbook, and like Christy said, our textbooks can be outdated within a couple of years, and our laptops and iPads are not. And it's just a tool. No matter what you think, you might not like it, but it's a tool. They use a textbook, they use a laptop, or a computer. It's a tool. And it's a tool used for learning.
All right, Mrs. Whalen, did you have something to add?
I was a teacher in this district 36 years, and I know a lot of the younger children, a lot of their pages come from like a workbook or something like that in that nature. And I know a lot of the things they take the page out at school and they may bring it home with them. Today I spent time with one of the teachers in first grade, and we went through new materials that were just recently purchased, a heavy writing program for first grade, which is phenomenal from what I could see. I wish I was still teaching so I could do it because it looks amazing. So there are textbooks out there. I have used textbooks in the past. It's not like when we went to school, we had a ton of books to carry. It is not the same way anymore. You can see a lot of learning happen by doing a lot of talking with your kids and discussions. It doesn't have to be in a book all the time. I mean, yes, there are children reading novels or other books, but it is not like when we went to school. There are workbooks or work pages that kids have in school.
All right, I'm just gonna remind people, and we'll continue on, the questions are asked through the moderator, the responses are made through the moderator. Mr. Fife, do you have any comment?
There's really not much to add. I just wanted to mention, as a parent of an 8th grader and a 6th grader, formerly 5th grader, obviously, there are textbooks. They did come home from time to time, but a lot of it is done electronically on the iPads and on computers. I mean, from a personal perspective, I like that because I can have access to see what they are actually doing and learning and have instant access to grades and where they're at. So, if you have questions regarding that, I would urge you to reach out. We have some talented people here that can help you figure out what they're learning and what source.
Does that answer your question regarding textbooks? Okay. Any further questions or discussion on Article 1?
Thank you for clarifying that. I think my point in saying that, like, like, do you have a book that you're reading? Is just in general, like, where are you getting the information? Like, are you sitting there and like reading something and learning something? Or, because what he said was like the teacher wrote the vocabulary words on the board, they learned the definition, and then they stacked noodles for fun as a game. It was like, well, what was the lesson about? And he had no answer. Right? There was no lesson being taught. It was just words that were given that he had to memorize the definition of, and then like no understanding of what those words mean. And knowing the words, I went through and I said, well, you should be learning about X, Y, and Z. Is that what you're doing? Well, there was a plant in the room, so kind of. Like, it's what's the lesson? Like, what are you actually learning for, so does that make more sense of like, I understand it's not going to be a physical textbook. Yes, there is value to the computer, to the laptop, to whatever electronic learning tool that is being used. But my question then is that tool actually being used in the classroom? Or is it just collecting dust somewhere that we've spent money on it and then it's not being used? So is there a reason to continue approving a budget for tools that are not actually being used? Does that make sense?
Mr. Fife?
Well, my kids do come home with library books to read, so there's plenty of that available to them. As a so you said fifth grade, right? You should be getting newsletters as well to tell you what they're learning, and the email addresses are typically attached to the newsletter, where you can email the actual teacher and get information. If you want to know what the lesson plan is, they can actually send you the lesson.
To know what the lesson is, so that like you know what
I understand. I ask my kids every day, "What did you learn in school?" And they get the same answer: nothing. No,
that's fair, but like if I am like pressing him for a few minutes, like generally you're gonna get an answer out of them. At least with my child, right? I can ask the right question and figure out like, okay, you did something today. There's blank. So.
All right. Any further questions or discussion? All right. Yes, sir. Just come to the mic.
Andrew Beaupre at Litchfield. Sorry. Generally, I don't use a microphone, so I will make an attempt to use one without blowing your eardrums. I do this a lot. If this isn't loud enough, please let me know. But Andrew Beaupre of Litchfield, back in the beginning of the meeting, we approved the administrators who were not residents to speak, right? So is there an option to ask individuals that are in the room those questions specifically, or is that not allowed? If we allow them to speak, can I ask the specific questions to be weighed in on by administrators?
Is your question regarding
Absolutely.
regular instruction? Okay,
Yeah.
you can ask your question through the moderator.
Administrators is, do the administrators feel that with the budget number proposed, they can effectively educate the children covered under Article 1?
All right. Do you want to choose an administrator? Anybody?
Is there an administrator that would like to? Okay, Marco's coming. Thank you, Marco.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Marco Aliberti, I'm the principal at Oak Hill High School. So in regards to budget numbers, we're a pretty resourceful bunch when it comes to, what is provided to us and then what we're able to do with that money. As far as the budget is concerned and the budget that's here in front of us, I would say that if the board has approved that and, they're feeling that it is in a good place, then we would agree with that. Are there things that we wish that we had more of, but we also understand that there are constraints to that, right? You can't hear me? Well, that's not helpful, is it? Yeah. Should I start again? Are you sure? I'm happy to do it again. It's not a problem whatsoever. Yes, I will introduce myself. Thank you for that. I'm Marco Aliberti. I'm the principal here at Oak Hill High School. And as I was saying, we work with what we have and what's provided to us from obviously the board and the townspeople, and we do appreciate all of your support. With that being said, there are things that we wish we had more of, but we also understand that there is a balance between what is being able to be provided from townsfolk and the needs that we have. So we strike a balance with that, and that's what you're seeing play out in front of us. Is you're seeing a process at the end or towards the end here, hopefully, that we have. It's not a waste of time. Not a waste of time. Okay. What it is it's a process, right? So we work with the superintendent, the business manager, all of the directors to make sure that our needs are met to the best of our ability. We pass that along to the board. The board works with that information and they make it happen. And we hope that the communities will support that. Obviously we've been through a number of rounds now and we still have that support. But at this point in time, I would say we are good with where the budget is. We would like to see it passed more than anything else.
Does that answer your question? Any further questions or discussion on Article 1? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 1, regular instruction, $7,547,261, please raise your paddles. Those opposed? That motion carries. Point of information.
Thank you. My name is Tom Wood from Litchfield. Will the moderator entertain a motion to take the articles out of order? An article out of order.
I would entertain a motion to take an item out of order, if you're specifying which item, but that would require a 2/3 majority of those present in order to do that. State your motion, please.
I move that we take the additional local funds written ballot next. Not labeled in my paper. Additional local fund.
Article 13. I will entertain that motion, but you have to understand that number. No, I'm sorry. I mean, if we take it out of order, it requires a 2/3 majority. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded to move to Article 14 next. Article 13, which is the additional local. All those in favor of going to Article 13 next, please raise your paddles. Actually, I apologize. It is debatable. It is debatable. Discussion. Well, he's made a motion. He's done. It's been seconded. We're at discussion.
Randy, can I enter our point of order? According to the information that I'm viewing, it is not debatable. I don't know if we have the same version.
All right. The point of clarification was, we are using the main moderator's manual. This is a debatable item. Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Parker?
My only discussion is that this Article 13 is really the only place that you can adjust this budget up or down in one motion to allow the school board to place the money where they need it, and then allow the towns to theoretically pay their fair share. You can't adjust what the state's going to give us, because that's not logical at all. But the local share can be adjusted by the school board if they wish to allow each town to pay by, say, how many children they have to educate. So it makes sense to stop the whole process and move to Article 13 to adjust it up or down to allow the school board to say, okay, we have this amount of money locally to apply over and above what the state says we really need to educate our children. But we've decided we need more. So that being said, if we say, okay, we're going to adjust this by vote, do I have a time limit? Okay, just one. Sorry. Anyway, we're going to adjust this number to reflect what all the towns agree is reasonable per child in each town to educate our children. That's my comment.
Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Hello, William White from Litchfield. I see no reason to mess with the order of these articles. It was laid out this way for a purpose. We should continue with the process.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Again, Tom Wood from Litchfield. This motion is a reaction to the moderator's instruction that we pass a budget tonight that will stand passing at the referendum at the ballot box. If we go through and vote all of the numbers as they're presented and the board has recommended, we will end up with a number that, in my opinion, will not pass at the ballot box. If we go to Article 13 and put a number on that, that allows the school board to make its internal adjustments according to their best judgment about how to allocate the available funds. So if the goal is to pass at the ballot box, this is one way to approach that.
Any further discussion? Mr. English.
Robert English, Wales. This is an attempt here to go and change the bottom line instead of having the fortitude to tell us, the board, exactly where you want to cut. So I believe the intent here is to lower the amount in Article 13, but approve all the other articles so that we can spend the money. We're authorized to spend it, but you're not going to give it to us to spend. And we can't spend the deficit. So that means the board will have to make a decision. If you cut theoretically $100,000, they're going to have to take that out of some place where this group here has already approved we could spend X number of dollars, because Articles 1 through 11 or 1 through 12 are going to set what we can spend in each area. If you don't give us the money for it, then they're going to have to make a cut. I don't believe that they're going to want to cut the educational program. They're going to not want to cut teachers in the classrooms. They're going to have a very limited number of choices on where they can cut to go and do that. So if I believe that we should vote against this motion, and if there are particular areas where people believe that particular article should be lowered or increased, they could do that, and then we come to a final number. To come up and say that any one of us or any small group of us really know what the taxpayers at the next budget validation, or not validation, but the budget referendum is going to say, we don't know. You know, hopefully it'll pass, and hopefully it'll be enough to go and provide our students with the education that they deserve to have and that they're going to need to have to succeed for the rest of their lives. So I would propose that this motion be defeated. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Tracy, Banquet.
I have to concur with what Mr. English said. This is an attempt that people want to, that people want to cut. That people want to cut the budget. If you want to cut the budget, tell them where you want to cut it. Just don't give them a blatant answer of, oh yeah, we're going to cut $1 million out of it. Tell them where you want it cut. Don't sit there with just a blind eye to say, I want this reduced. If you don't like the 4x4 or the truck or whatever it is that everybody is up in arms about, then say, do not purchase that. We want that sold. We want it cut. We want it out of the budget, whatever. But I agree with Mr. English. We're going through all these articles. If you want to reduce in a certain area, reduce in a certain area. But this bottom line, that's ridiculous.
Mr. Parker? Did you have a comment? Okay, Mr. Wood?
Tom Wood, Litchfield. It's my personal opinion that the people in the room who have the best knowledge about how to best spend the dollars available are the people sitting around the table in front of us. They know each of the programs intimately, and to have me, who loves pickup trucks, to come in here and say, oh, I would love you to buy a pickup truck, makes no sense because it has no context. Only the board has the kind of insider knowledge, experience, and context to make the valuable decisions that are necessary to best utilize the funds that are available. And while I appreciate the opportunity to talk about how much I love pickup trucks, I don't think that's germane to the outcome that the school board is trying to achieve, which is the best education possible for the students that we have. So I am more than willing to defer to the school board to utilize in the best way they can fit the available funds, and to not nickel and dime them through 12 different articles over my personal preference.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Go ahead.
First, a comment. Hi, I'm Christine Garrett from Sabatis. I think it's a little bit difficult to say that we support the school board in making financial budgetary decisions and then have people show up at these meetings freaking out about those budgetary decisions. But enough about that. I'd like to move the question.
There is a motion to move the previous question, which would end discussion. All those in favor of moving the previous question, please raise your paddle. Those opposed,
That motion carries. The question before us is taking an item out of order and moving to Article 13. All those in favor of taking an item out of order, please raise your paddles and hold them high so they can be counted. Those opposed? All right, that motion fails. There was 7 in the affirmative, 26 in the negative. Are you all set? We're going to jump back to Article 2. Article 2, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for special education. The school board recommends $4,978,561. Motion, please. It has been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your paddles. Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 3, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for career and technical education. School board recommends $0. Motion, please. Been moved for 0 and has been seconded for 0. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion carries. Article 4, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for other instruction. The school board recommends $566,361. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 5, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for student and staff support. The school board recommends $2,574,093. Motion, please. It has been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 6, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for system administration. The school board recommends $744,458. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? Been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 7, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for school administration. The school board recommends $1,107,286. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 8, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for transportation and buses. School board recommends $1,356,011. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Questions or discussion? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kayla Griffin again from Sabatis, and I'm curious, why is there such a huge increase over the last year? And this is probably a different conversation, but I know that a couple of years ago the schools were like things were kind of redistrict a bit, and I'm curious if we think that that was the best decision, and is that playing a big role in why this is such a big number? And that leads to a whole boatload of other questions and concerns as well. But this seems like a huge increase that like the cost of gas doesn't explain it away. So what's going on with that?
All right, I think I'll pass that off to the superintendent.
Yeah, one of the largest part of this is the special education costs. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Can I talk like this? Thank you. I'm trying to be respectful with my cold and sitting close to my colleague. It's the special education costs. So we contract for our special education students for transportation. And so we moved those funds into transportation with our special ed. That's where the major increase is. And then obviously salary and benefits, we added a position for a driver. And then our insurance costs, as well as repairs and maintenance. So it's just keeping that, so to make sure our buses that we have enough drivers and making sure our special ed students are getting the transportation that they need.
All right, any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 9, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for facilities maintenance. School board recommends $3,357,332. Motion, please. It has been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Questions or discussion? Yes.
Hello, my name is Josh O'Neill, resident of Litchfield. I'm just wondering if in this budget item, there are funds to address some of the things in Libby Tozier and Kerry Ricker, such as the mold or the lead that were tested for. And if those funds are available, would they be used in the near term to address some of those issues?
Yes. So to address the water, we're working with the state around a filtration system that we're working with them on. So yes, if you, on the budget page, there's more in depth, but that's why there's an increase here looking at the things that are needed for each building. Absolutely, because this was an area that was reduced significantly last year. So it's to catch back up with that.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 10, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for debt service and other commitments. The school board recommends $433,656. Motion, please. It has been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded in the back. Any questions or discussion?
I will just add, this is the last payment. So we added that to the slide. This is the final year of the debt service payment for this project.
Any questions or discussion?
Hi, Christine Garrett, Sabatis. Could you just explain how we were able to bring that number down? I mean, my understanding is it's a loan that you're repaying, and so how was that possible?
reduction is a result of the interest dropping over the payments of the loan. So the principal amount stays the same, fixed throughout the life of the loan, and every year the interest is reduced a little bit.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion carries. Article 11, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for all other expenditures. The school board recommends $0. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Mr. English. Well, there is an 11 in what was posted, and that's what we're going by.
So Article 11 is all other expenditures. Previously, the district has used this line to do a transfer for expenses to school nutrition, but we no longer do that. School nutrition is now in its own fund, the 2930 fund. So anything that we raise and expend for school nutrition was approved at the May 15th budget. So this is a $0 warrant article, Article 11. So the warrant to call does have Article 11 at $0. This slide was accidentally omitted from this deck.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Samantha, just a quick question. Is it number 12 or number 14 you need a physical count for? Right, 13 is secret ballot. I'm just trying to remember because I didn't bring my notes from last meeting. Is it's 12 that you need a physical count? Yeah, I believe that's correct. All right, Article 12. To see what sum the RSU will appropriate for the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and to see what sum the RSU will raise and assess as each municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15688. Total appropriated by municipality, Town of Litchfield, $5,841,409.64. The amount to be raised by Litchfield, $2,846,489.66. Total for the Town of Sabattis, $8,751,202.76. The total to be raised by Sabattis, $2,496,953.66. Town of Wales, total, $3,072,340.23. Total to be raised by Wales, $938,495.34. The sum total, $17,664,952.63, and the total to be raised by the three municipalities, $6,281,938.66. Motion, please. It has been moved by Mr. English. Is there a second? It has been seconded right here in the front, in the second row. Questions or discussion? Sam, do you want to jump on that, Sam? Or Katie?
Okay, so this is when we talked about the required. So the ED 279, which is the big formula, what it does is it calculates that total of $17,664,952.67 for appropriating the state funds after they determine how much the towns can pay. It's determined by the enrollment and the town evaluation for each of the towns. And so it takes away from their total. It first takes away what is required, and then it allocates the state funds. So this is from the state formula. In order to get the state funds, you need to raise a certain amount by local, and that's determined by the town's evaluation, which is a 3-year evaluation in the formula.
Right. In order to get those state dollars, the 17 million, the 3 towns have to raise the $6,281,938.66 by statute. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the total in the formula was 17,664,952.63. Then they subtract the 6,281,938.66 to give us the state funds of 11,383,013. Okay, but it's the slide. It's confusing, absolutely. So there's a total amount in the formula minus the required local gives us the state amount. The graph is to show each town how much they get in the formula for state funding.
Any further questions? Go ahead.
That's from the state formula. Yes, it's a state formula. Correct. You bet.
Right, but if the towns don't appropriate the 6 million, you don't get the state portion.
Right.
Any further questions or discussion? Yes, ma'am.
So the question has to do with, if we don't raise the full 6 or so million in the right-hand column, is the state subsidized, we'll call it, appropriated amount adjusted accordingly? Do you have that information, Katie? We don't
I
have
don't want
that.
to say and answer that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the ED 279 is, and I don't know how anybody can read it or understand it. It's very in depth. It is public information. It's on the DOE as well, the Department of Education website. I don't think they get into though, or it doesn't get into statute either, what the repercussions are. It's only written in a manner of what you need to do to receive the funds. So statute, I don't believe even.
Right, it's my understanding that if you don't raise it, you don't get it.
That's correct. So I don't think it's adjusted, but we don't know. I mean, we could always follow
It
up
took
with
years
DOE.
to ramp up. You used to be able to go under, and then they stopped that, as Randy said. They stopped that. They ramped up because districts had to catch up. And so now it's just, this is what you need to raise to get your state funding.
But it is a good question. Can we reach out to DOE and put it on our,
Yeah, I can do it. I'll add it to the Q&A.
Yeah, we have a Q&A page. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the RS24 website. There's a Q&A page with questions and answers that have been collected over the past few cycles, maybe.
All right, any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise them high, because I need to get a count. Those opposed? There was 30 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. That motion carries. Article 13 will be a written ballot to see what sum the RSU will raise and appropriate in additional local fund. Recommend $4,131,065.03, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by the recommended $4,131,065.03, as required to fund the budget recommended by the school board. The school board recommends $4,131,065.03, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $4,131,065.03 due to inequities in the EPS funding formula, including but not limited to the regional labor market adjustment factor, student-teacher ratios, extra and co-curricular programs, and administrative costs. Motion, please. Motion is for the requested amount, $4,131,065.03. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Yes. All right, the question is, how does that relate to the total raised by the town?
So this amount is in addition to the 6 million that we have to raise in order to receive the state funds. This is in addition to that. Correct. Thank you. Let's make sure I'm not speaking incorrectly here.
It's part of our revenue source. So when I first went over the revenue, it's part of the revenue source, which is those items I said before, like state agency client, fund balance, then you have the state funds, then you have the required, and then you have the additional. So all that revenue balances the expenditure side.
Yep, Mr. Wood.
Thank you. Tom Wood again, Litchfield. I move an amendment to $3,631,065.03.
There's an amendment on the floor, and that amount would be $3,631,065.03. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Mr. English.
Robert English, Wales. So a few minutes ago, we were reminded that the school board had enough knowledge to go and allocate funds as they needed in order to support the budget. Now we have perhaps the same person wanting to go and tell the school board people that you didn't know how much it was and how much and where to go to use it. So this reduction, I believe, is 500,000. Just looking at it, it's 400,000 or 500,000. That's well, probably if we talk about new teachers, because you lay off at the bottom. That's probably 8 teachers, maybe. Ed techs, because we know we can't eliminate sports, because this place will be full, and you guys won't be able to go home at a place where they know who you are. So that leaves educational programs. We can't touch special education. We had to raise the budget line for buses and drivers because last year, we all know, we didn't have enough drivers. It was a lot of bus runs canceled. So we had to give increases to the bus drivers and be kept competitive. And then the regular raises that came through contract negotiations. So there's very few articles on here where you can take $400,000 or $500,000 and spread it out. Maintenance, you cut that last year, and our buildings are showing it. We had a question about, are we going to take care the problems we have in the schools with mold and other things, well, if they hadn't cut 500,000 out of it last year, we might not have had it. So I know we want the budget to pass. It's a general feeling that the people believe it's too high and they can't afford it. The people have to realize that if they want their students, they want their children, their grandchildren, their nieces and nephews, their neighbors' children educated so that they can be gainfully employed after high school or go on to secondary education, we need money to do that. And that money is in people mostly. Really is. That's the biggest cost center is people. 70-80% of our budget is people. So you want to cut 500,000? It's people. There's just not enough reams of paper that we can get rid of to make that up. So I would recommend that we vote no for this amendment and pass the amount that was requested by the school board. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Wood.
I agree with everything that Mr. English said. The reality is, we did 4 budgets last year, and of all the votes cast in the 3 towns, the 4th budget only passed by 50 votes. In Litchfield, the last 7 times RSU4 has come to the ballot box have failed spectacularly. In the beginning, the moderator, and I thank you for saying this, said we need to pass a budget that the voters will support. I would prefer not to be back here for round 4 again this year. And the voters need to understand, and I agree with that. I am the chairman of the budget committee for the town of Litchfield, and in 10 years as chair, we've had maybe 6 people visit our meetings. I don't know how many people were here tonight, but the last time we voted a budget in this room that got defeated at the ballot box, there were only 22 people from Litchfield who found it in their interest to come to this meeting. So whatever the disconnect is between what's going on here and what's going on at the ballot box, somebody needs to bridge the gap. And if the voters need to understand the people in the driver's seat with the information are sitting before us, and in order for them to do their job and educate our students, they need to find some better way to reach out and educate the voters. At the moment, that gap is almost unbridgeable. I recommend you vote the amendment in the positive.
Any further questions or discussion? Hold on 1 second. Yes, it was seconded. Good.
I agree with Tom Wood for a lot of this. We're definitely in a challenging time with trying to bridge this gap because the people that are in here, I think, understand the gap. The school board, I don't know why there's a perception that the budget that we're presenting is like a want list. This is the 3rd round. We've already cut most of the stuff that can be cut. The extra $4 million is just to try to meet the minimum standard of just doing the best we can to educate the students. Cutting any more, as has been mentioned before, is just going to really severely start impacting that. And I mean, if your car is starting to break, you wish that you could buy a new car for less money, but new cars have a fixed, that's what they cost. So if we start dropping the money, it's just like buying that new car. You're not getting a new car. You're getting, you're impacting the quality of the investment. And I know you guys all know that, but that's the point of the 4 million going above and beyond.
All right, any further questions or discussion? Yes, ma'am?
So just in my, obviously I don't have a lot of experience with the district, but in my observations of the conversations participating in the conversations with the parents, I'm as directly as I can quote this, what I heard from the meeting 2 weeks ago, I think it was, they said, it's not about the number, it's about the conversation between the teachers and the board, and the teachers getting what they need to do their job. It's like, they directly said that it's not the number that they're not going to approve, it's the actions of how it's being spent on the ground in reality, which goes to what I was saying with Article 1 of how is the money actually being spent? Is it efficient and effective in what we're doing? So I know just in the conversations I was reading today, the comments, it was, there's a lot of people who want to be here that can't be here because they're at sports with their kids. So if we want to get this budget passed, which it needs to pass, the town needs to be allowed to be involved. And I know you're not I'm not saying that it's an intentional scheduling that the meeting is during all the sport times, but let's throw the parents a bone and not schedule it when the high school has a bunch of sports games going on. And let's have an honest discussion about how is this money being spent so that we can pass it. It's not that they don't want to pass it. Like, they want their kids to get educated, but it's not happening. So they're not going to keep approving money to be spent when their kids are coming home with failing test scores, right? Like, I don't remember what the woman said a couple weeks ago of the percentage that it dropped, but it was a huge drop in how the students are performing. And that's the point. It's not the point of, well, you need, $22 million to run the schools. We know that. How is the money being spent? And what are we doing? This is, if we're listening to the parents and what they're talking about and who's been here for years, that's what they're saying. So are we talking to the teachers? Are their needs in the classroom being met? Because it doesn't sound like it is.
Mr. Wood?
I apologize to my other attendees tonight. The difficulty here is that we're preaching to the choir. The people who thought it important enough to show up are not the audience that we need to reach. And unfortunately, I don't know how to reach. The new superintendent, she's not new anymore, but the newest, has implemented a whole series of things that have made a huge amount of difference. Open public meetings, discussions, an invitation to representatives from the towns to come and look at the inside of the budget process on a week-by-week or bi-weekly basis as the budget's being developed through the spring. All of these are terrific outreach pieces and critical information to be passed on. Somehow the problem is it's not getting to the people who need it in order to make the decision that's the right decision, which is to support the school. So my motion is not one of critiquing the budget, but referring back to the moderator's original statement, we need to pass a budget that will actually pass the referendum.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, Casey, what color we got next? Barbie pink. Okay. So the amendment on the floor is $3,631,065.03. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. This will be a secret ballot. We have a point of order. Please state your point of order. Yep. Yeah. So again, we're voting first on the amended motion, $3,631,065.03. We'll be voting with Barbie pink ballots. I will declare the ballot box open. Okay? Yep, I did. I apologize. So that is an amendment. If it passes, it then becomes a main motion. If it fails, we will revert back to the other motion. The original motion which was made. Any further questions before we begin balloting? All right, we'll begin with the Barbie pink ballots. Please go to your town to get your ballots. The ballot box is open. Wow.
You're messing up people down.
Yeah, it's fine. No, that's.
Oh, no, my. Oh, they're not. They're having. Sorry. Are you going to? Are you
How you doing, Carolina?
Doing good.
Doing good? What happened the second time? It just
So I switched over to the picture-in-picture one, which I didn't realize I didn't add the
Didn't have the audio
input, and then I added the audio input, and it's fine. But then I ended up just getting out of the picture-in-picture one because it was like I couldn't find things right. Squishy.
there we go. Don't be squishy.
I'll figure it out another time, but like whenever I have. Whenever I get to think about it and like prepare it ahead of
You love
time.
practice on the when is our next?
Does anyone need assistance with voting? If you do, please raise your hand. We'll have one of the clerks come to you. Has everyone voted who wishes?
It would be easier with
I now declare the ballot box closed and we'll begin counting.
Back in the center, just to see if the audio is
I almost
there.
put my
usually.
earbuds in because I heard my phone go off. I was trying to listen to the
I did the same thing. I heard my phone too, but
I was like, oh my god.
Oh man, I clicked the wrong video by accident again.
And I have there's no sound. I have Jordan going, there's no sound. I'm like, I know. Jordan, take care of your own board meeting tonight. He's doing a board meeting tonight too.
You do yours.
Yes, we'll do ours.
Yeah.
Too funny. Yeah, those chairs for at least you got a comfy chair.
Yeah.
No, it's hot. But there's like a million little Minji bugs up there just like zooming by me. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh yeah.
And you know
Yeah, and those chairs are up.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring a cushion like Mel next to us.
Do you have an idea of when we're gonna finish?
Moderating.
I mean, it depends on.
Depends if we're really obviously and if it
Yeah.
thinking like out here. So did you ever get all big cars? Flatbed?
So I've got this cart. There's another cart.
Oh, you got the dolly.
There,
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
the dolly
Yeah.
stuff. I could
We'll
be able
load
to
it right out. I'd stay. We pick them together.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't abandon you.
Nice. And then
Jordan would have killed me if I ever abandoned him. So no penny.
the tables, do we need to put those back or?
We do, but custodians will take care of. You have the mic coming up here?
For here?
I'm not.
Oh. Oh.
You said take it out. It might be the computer.
Had a potential of 36 registered voters present. We had 11 yes, 25 no. The motion fails. But we did have everybody vote. So now we're going to start the discussion on the main motion, which was $4,131,065.03. Discussion, please. It's already been moved. We're just discussion. Mr. English. There's a motion to move the previous question, which would end debate, requires a 2/3 majority. All those in favor of ending debate and moving right to balloting, please raise your paddles. Those opposed? That motion carries. Casey, what color ballot are we using? Guacamole green. All right, we will be voting on Article 13. It is a yes or no. And once again, the motion is the recommended amount, $4,131,065.03. Has everybody voted that wishes? I will declare the ballot box closed and we'll begin counting. Can I have your attention, please? All right. The motion was for $4,131,065.03. 28 yes, 7 no. The motion carries. Article 14. To see what sum the RSU will authorize the school board to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024 and ending June 30, 2025 from the RSU's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, local funds for non-state funded school construction, debt services, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools. The school board recommends $22,665,019. Motion, please. It has been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Can you come to the mic?
Sorry, just out of curiosity, what's the cost per pupil-ish?
I will add that that is on the FAQ in the budget, because when you do a per pupil, isn't taking the total and dividing by the number of students. There's an expenditure per pupil done by the Department of Education, and so you can look that up on the Department of Ed per pupil expenditures site. But if you go on our website, it's right there. I have it there for you.
Any further questions or discussion?
No problem, Christine. Thank you for your help, though.
All right. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your paddles. Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 15. To see if the RSU will appropriate $85,258 for adult education and raise $46,593 as the local share, with authorization to expend any additional incidental or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for the well-being of the adult education program. Motion, please. It has been moved. Is there a second? It's been seconded. Any questions or discussion?
I'm just curious, how many people are enrolled in adult education?
Our adult ed director is here.
We're going to get
In case I have a follow-up, okay?
Yeah, and this is just so, because there isn't information there, this is a reduction to taxes for adult education. Jim Palmer, who's our adult ed director, was at 0.75, and he is now at 0.50, and he is also our athletic director at the high school for 0.50. So that this is a reduction which impacts his reducing taxes.
Yeah, so to answer the question about adult ed students, we have roughly 400 over the course of the year. It involves enrichment, workforce training, high school diploma. We do sub-training for teachers. We do first aid, CPR, babysitting. So at the end of the year, we're up to somewhere around 400 participants. Yep. With driver's ed, we do a lot. Yep. So, yep.
All right. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your paddles. Those opposed? That motion carries. As a reminder, this was step one of the two-step process. I would ask you to go and do the next step, which will be on Tuesday, September 24th. Polls are open in Litchfield and Sabattis from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And in Wales, they're open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Are there any announcements before I seek a motion?
I just want to remind our school board members to stay and sign. I'm sure you remembered, but otherwise I'd have to hunt you down and try to drag you back into the school. And thank you everybody for coming tonight.
All right, so there is no further business to come before us. Is there a motion to adjourn? It has been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries, and this concludes the annual budget meeting.